Now we will continue that absorptions hygrometer. Now we will see that dew point temperature meter. See that this figure dew point temperature meter will be there. Here there will be a one stirrer is there, and one more connection is there, refrigerant liquid line, and this refrigerant liquid line will be there, and one heater will be there. Why we are providing this heater is to give that heat to that liquid, then it will be boiled. So for that cause, to generate that temperature, for that we kept here heater. Another one more thing we are attached to that, one pointer scale will be there, calibrated pointer meter will be there to read the temperature. So there are two thermo leads will be there. So these two thermometers is going to be connected to the one shiny surface mirror. One mirror is there. This is the mirror. So this is going to be saying as this is photocell, this is a lens, this is a light source. So this is air gas inlet nozzle. We are going to sending this with this nozzle. We are going to sending that air. So that whenever this dew point temperature, generally we are going to taking this dew point temperature, we are going to taking humidity range near about 30 to 90 degrees and 0 to 75 degrees. So whenever this liquid is going to be boiled, we are going to boiling. For that purpose we are going to using this stirrer. So with the help of this stirrer, we are going to sending a light source. One is photocell, another one is general light source. There will be a lenses will be there. So due to that, we are two thermocouples, we are attached to this calibrated multi-voltmeter to read the temperature. This is that this dew point temperature we are going to using widely for this one. Okay, this main principle of this dew point instruments is based on the surface to be exposed to the atmosphere cooled when the dew appears. What is the dew? Generally we are going to calling as, since now we are listening this dew. Dew means one droplet. It will be that hemispherical shape. Okay, this over there here condensation process will occur in this dew point temperature. This is the dew point operation. Generally we are going to measuring this humidity near about minus 60 degrees centigrade to 100 degrees centigrade. Means 100 degrees centigrade means see that it is boiling water. This is the temperature of boiling water temperature. This simple instrument, this is the range we are going to using. So in a simple point apparatus, dew point apparatus, a polished surface is slowly cooled and heated until the dew appears. Means whenever we are going to, means here you see that why we are going to set up all the heater and refrigerant liquid and pointers, two light source, means we want to make it to it will come that liquid solution, one dew, that droplet will come, that droplet from the atmosphere, that temperature we are going to measuring, that is called dew point temperature. Okay, so that is we are going to heating or cooling. Why stirrer is provided? For cooling purpose. Now that's this is that setup of dew point temperature. Now we will see that measurement of power and torque. What is the power? We know that power is equal to, just we saw that so many equations, tensions into velocity is called as means force into velocity we are going to calling as power, whereas torque we are going to calling as force into distance, or it is radius. Okay, now generally we are going to measuring this torque is for IC engines we are going to measuring, compressors we are going measuring, and different types of hydraulic generators also we are going to measuring this torque, means different types of dynamometers will be there. With that help we are going to measuring this torque and power. Now we will see that what is that different types of dynamometers. First one is absorption dynamometer, second one is the transmission dynamometers, third one is hydraulic dynamometers, fourth one is electrical dynamometers, and non-contact type torque dynamometer, strain gauge torque sensor or torque converter. Now we will see that rope brake dynamometer. This rope brake dynamometer is available in our lab also. So that we are having one drum will be there. With that drum we are going to connect this rope, and this rope one end we are going to fixing to that one end, another one we are going to fixing to that scale. We have to read that. So how we are going to so in the meanwhile the engine is going to be crankshaft is going to be connected with this shaft, and the shaft is linked and it is going to be connected to that engine crankshaft, and we are going to arranging for wooden blocks over there. Now in our setup there is no wooden blocks, even though we can arrange that wooden blocks to reduce that friction. So this is a spring balance we connected. Another one weight we are going to connected over here. So and we are going to providing cooling water. Why we are going to providing cooling water means to whenever the drum is going to be rotated, it is going to be heated. Some heat is going to be generated from the engine and this drum. So we want to cool down. So for that purpose we are going to sending cooling water inside of the dynamometer. So we know that what is the torque, W into L, means weight into length. So what is that F into R? F means force in newtons, R means perpendicular distance from the point of the applications of the force. That is that torque. Now brake dynamometer is a very simple device. We can measure power and torque. Already we discussed. Again one more time I am going to repeating you. So generally it is consists of rope wound. 2 or 3 rope wounds we can do that over there, and then that rope wound, one is going to be connected to the dead weight, another one is going to be connected to the spring balance. Now we know that one equation, that is we can find out power. That equation is 2 pi nt by 60 into 1000. So what is n? Speed, engine speed. We can what is the t? T is nothing but a torque. From torque, how we are going to finding out torque? We know that force, how much force is applied on the engine, the dynamometer, and radial distance from that one. So with it both thing we are going to finding out this T. So generally BP, one more, that torque will be there, W minus S into pi into D plus D by 60. And one more thing is there, BHP we can MKS units we can find out, pi dn into W minus S divided by 4500. So this is one more equation. We can find out horsepower with the help of this rope brake dynamometer. So another one setup is there, hydraulic dynamometer. Hydraulic dynamometer, we are going to seeing this setup will be there in that this engine crankshaft we are going to connecting. Here 2 discs will be there, entire casing we are arranged over there, and this casings we are going to putting this bearings, 2 bearings, 4 bearings we can put it over there, and then water inlet will be there and water outlet will be there. So that whenever this is going to be connected to the engine crankshaft, it is going to be rotated. So then whenever it is going to be rotated, the water force will be applied over there. So water force, whenever we are going to applying that water force, there will be a friction will be developed. That FHP we are going to finding out. So hydraulic dynamometer is going to be working on the principle of dissipating power and fluid friction. So it is generally in hydraulic dynamometer, centrifugal force will be developed. By centrifugal, it is going to be one casing will be there. That casing is going to be rotating. So that tends to develop that centrifugal force. This is that hydraulic dynamometer. Hydraulic dynamometer also we are going to using in 4-stroke 4-cylinder 4-cylinder SI engines, means spark ignition engines. Now we will see that measurement of force. Generally, what is that force? Now force is nothing but physical quantity and fundamentals of fundamental to the generally engineers. So that is that force. So the term is going to be, we are going to using this force related to the engine output. Generally this is force is nothing but mechanical quantity and which changes or tends to change the motivation shape body to which it is applied is called as force. So whenever we are going to applying one any mechanical element, we are going to applying one force on that. That force we are going to saying as means that shape we are going to changing. Suppose one place we kept in one mass is there, 10 kg of stone is there. That 10 kg of stone we are going to applying some means we can say that movement. That movement that it is going to be changing the shape one place to another place. That is called as force. Now we can see that what is the weight. We will see the definition. Weight of a body is the force exerted on the body by gravitational acceleration due to gravity. Whenever we are going to saying as that force weight, that force is going to be exerted on the body by gravitational force. Suppose you are leaving the stone in the some height, so that stone is falling down to the falling down. How it is going to be falling down means it is at acceleration due to gravity. So then the stone is having or anything is having weight. So another one more thing we can define as mass. What is a mass? Mass is defined as to measure the quantity of matter. To measure that quantity of measure. A mass is invariable. Suppose somewhere else mass will be there 10 kg, you can put it same thing, it will be there somewhere else, it will be that 9 kg, 9.5, 9.8, like that will be there. So that is the thing. Now what are the devices are used in measurement of force? First one is scale for balances, second one is equilibrium balance, and third one is unequal arm balance, pendulum scale balance, elastic force balance. Next another one more is load cell, strain gauge load cell, hydraulic load cell, pneumatic load cell. Okay, now we will see that electric force meter, that is also we are going to calling as proving ring. That is also we are going to calling as proving ring. Proving ring. So elastic force meter we are going to calling as proving ring. What are the main parts are there and how it will be there? Proving ring means we are having watches in our regular stopwatch will be there. Whenever we are going to pressing on the top, it will dial that one. So like that same pattern here also we are arranged this elastic force meter, that is also called as proving ring. So you see that due to applied force on the top, this is say that external bars one will be there and downside one more internal bars will be there and ring will be there totally. That ring inside we are going to arrange it scale. So this is internal bars, this is that external bars. So this is the reed means we are going to vibrating, that is called as reed. This is called as micrometer wheel. So that section I shown over there, how it will be there. Rectangular box will be there and there will be hatching I shown. How this entire section, XX section I shown. So in top side I am going to giving force and bottom side I am going to force. So over there external boss is also going to be operated and as well as internal boss is also operated. Whenever you are going to that giving force to the external bosses, so it is that compressive force. Due to that compression force, the rolling the ring diameter is going to be changed. This deflection of the ring is going to be proportional to the applied force. At this stage, the reed is plugged to obtain the vibration motion. When the reed is vibrating, the micrometer wheel is turned until the micrometer contact moves forward and makes noticeable damping of the vibrating of the reed. Due to this compressive force, we are going to measuring this force with the help of these rings and external bosses. Okay, that is the setup of this one. Now we will discuss selection and types of strain gauges and selection. Okay, types of strain gauges, we will see that. What are the types of strain gauges? First one, unbounded strain gauges. Second one, bounded strain gauges. And then this bounded strain gauges, again we are going to classify fine wire strain gauge, metal foil strain gauge, semiconductor or piezo resistance strain gauge. So here again this selection, how the strain gauge is to be selected for the measurement of strain. So now we will see that what are the selection points. First one is optimizing the gauge performance for specified environmental and operating conditions, obtaining accurate and reliable strain measurements. Third one is contributing to ease of installation. And fourth one is minimizing the total cost of gauge installation. So second point is installation and operating characteristics. What are the operating characteristics? We listed about near about 7 points. We will see that. First one is a grid material. Second one is baking material. Third one is gauge length. Fourth one is gauge pattern. Fifth one is gauge construction. Sixth one is bonding material. And seventh one is gauge production. Now we will see that what are the constraints for selection process of strain gauges. What are the selection process? First one is selection process. There will be first point is accuracy. Second one is the test duration. Third one is stability. Fourth one is cycle endurance. Fifth one is temperature. Sixth one is ease of installation and elongation and environment. Now we will discuss one more important term is a technical term is called as gauge factor. What is the gauge factor? Gauge factor is defined as elongation or contraction initiated resistance change. And R is nothing but resistance, means change in resistance by original resistance. That we can say as K into E, where E is the strain, okay, K is the constant, proportionality constant. This value of the gauge factor near about for copper and nickel alloys has gauge factor is about 2. Okay, and electrical strain gauge. Now up to this we can learn. Now afterwards we can see that electrical strain gauge. Thank you.